Welcome back. Today we're going to pick up right where we left off, working in the 3D modeling world. We're going to start here, jumping right in with some of the concepts that we talked about last time, such as extrude, push-pull, things like that, just to get us started again. So we're sitting here, we're looking at our layer plane, and let's grab a tool. Let's grab our rectangle tool, and I will start by just drawing a little box on here. Let's go 4 foot by 4 foot. If I wanted to change that, I can come over here, so I can change the size of it this way. I can also come over here to Object Info, and let's actually make it 3 foot by 3 foot. Now, to bring that up into 3 dimensions, we have several different options. One, we can push-pull, so I can use my push-pull tool that is found inside your 3D modeling tool set. And I just click on the surface, and I can pull that up. Pull it up as high as I want. I can hit Tab and come in here and make it exactly 8 foot. So now that I have a 3-dimensional object, again, I can come over here and I can alter that in here. I can change that. Actually, I wanted it just to be 3 foot as well. And there we go. The other thing we can do in our object info over here is change the elevation of things, and that's called our bottom Z. So right now, if we go to a front view, we'll see that it's sitting right on this line. It's sitting right on our layer plane, right? So that has an elevation of 0, a bottom Z. If I changed that to -2 foot, now it's sitting 2 foot below. If I go to a front view again, I can just grab it and lift it up and place it where I want it. The other way that we can extrude things in this world, let's draw a little circle. I want that to be 4 foot. The other way to get to that is going to be just to extrude it. So you can come up here to Model. If you remember, Modify has a lot of our 2-dimensional operations. Model has a lot of our 3-dimensional operations, and that's where you'll find Extrude. That'll open a dialog box, and you can change the amount of extrusion here. Let's say 8 foot. There we go. And you'll notice over here, 8 foot and a bottom Z of 0. The last way you could do that is actually with any of these tools up here, such as your rectangle tool. We talked about autoplane and also push-pull mode. So if we have our rectangle and we have push-pull mode enabled, we can draw. It'll appear on our layer plane. And as soon as I hover over it, it gives us that same red surface that you would get with, say, the push-pull tool. So as soon as we draw it, you have that option. Click it once, and then you can pull it up or push it down. Again, with snapping enabled, you can snap to corners. So say I wanted it exactly half the height as this cube. I can snap to the midpoint of this cube, and now this is at 18 inches, whereas the cube is at 3 foot. The last thing to know about extrudes is that we can extrude multiple objects at the same time. So let's go into top plan view. Let's have a little rectangle here. So I want to extrude a whole bunch of these. Let's grab our Move by Points tool, which is this one here. And let's say I want several of these. So I'll just duplicate this out. There we go. So I've got all of these little squares now, and I want to extrude them all. So Control E. 8 foot sounds good. Okay. So you can extrude multiple things. Here's the thing though, once you do that, these are all tied together now. I can't select just one of them. It's going to select the whole bundle, which can be good, which can be bad. What you can do though, if you want to separate them, or you want to just alter one of these, if you right click, you have the option to edit. And that will bring you in here. You can't edit the individual surfaces, but you can say, move just the one. And then if you go to exit, you'll see that's reflected now in there. The other thing you can do is simply to ungroup these. So if you go up to Modify, Ungroup, or Control U. Now you can select these individually and move them around. So that's good to know is when you do multiple extrudes, they are initially going to be locked together. That can be beneficial or it can be a pain. But if it's kind of holding you up, you can always get in and just ungroup them. So now we've got a couple of objects here. Let's start playing with some other 3D modeling concepts. Let's go to Top Plan View. And I'm going to place this object right over that one and get rid of this fella. So here we have two objects. Similar to the two-dimensional operation of add surface, we can add these together, and that would be called add solids. So if I collect both of them, hold Shift while you're clicking to select both, go into Model, and just try Add Solids. Now these are one object. They're tied together. Control Z to undo that. So that's essentially the same thing as add surface. We're simply grabbing these two objects and adding them together. Where it gets interesting is going to be in subtract solids. So what we're doing with subtract solids is the same operation basically as clip surface. If you remember, with clip surface, when you have two shapes, the one on top is going to take a bite out of the other one. So if I select both of these and I run clip surface, you get that. In 3 dimensions, there is no stacking order necessarily. So we'll select both of those, and the 3D modeling version is going to be subtract solids. So if we run subtract solids, it's going to ask you which one of these do you want to subtract from. So you can skip through. Let's make it this one, and it'll turn red. Okay, so you'll see there that cylinder took a bite out of our little rectangle. Let's bring that back. And if we were to run that the other way, with this being our object, that took a bite out of our cylinder. So that's why it matters which object you select to retain. The other thing to note is that you do have an option to retain solids. Let's get rid of these. So I have both of my objects, right? Select them both. I'm going to run the exact same operation, subtract solids, but this time I'm going to click retain subtracting objects. So now when I run it, this won't vanish, but you'll see it still has done the same operation on it. But that just keeps the piece that you're subtracting in place. So where might we use this? Let's say we have a wall. We have a foot thick wall. Running along here, and let's extrude it 10 foot. So now we've got this big wall, right? Oh, it's only 1 inch thick. I wanted a foot thick, so I can just go ahead and change it actually over here to 12 inches. There we go. Gotta love that object info. So let's say I wanted to punch a window in here. A couple different ways you could do that. I could draw on here, and then I could extrude it -1 foot. So now you'll see by that orange outline that it is living inside the wall there, right? So if I were to select that and this, and then run subtract solids, I want to keep the wall, right? So I'm going to leave that in red. I'll get rid of retain, and there we go. So that's one place where you may want to use it. Let's close this hole up. I could do that by simply pulling this surface over with my push-pull tool. Another way you could do that actually, instead of having to use your subtract solids, again, with a lot of these, you have the push-pull already built into the tool. So with our rectangle and with autoplane, you want autoplane on so that when you hover over a surface, it turns blue. No. If autoplane is off, everything I do is going to be on the layer plane. But if auto is on, I have my rectangle, I have push-pull, I hover over a surface and it turns blue. I can draw that same rectangle, and then I can click it and push it through the back. So that's another place that you might want to use that. But that is subtract solids. A similar but different operation. Let's get rid of all this. Is going to be intersect solids. So let's say I have two objects here. So intersect solids is sort of like a Venn diagram. It can basically just retain the areas where the two objects intersect. Let's see. So if we ran that operation with these two selected, it would essentially just keep the part where they overlap. Here we go. So intersect solids is one of those ones you don't use a ton, but when you need it, it really comes in handy. So let's say we want to build a moon shape thing that hangs on the back wall of the theater, but we want it to be made out of slats. What I would do, I could either draw just a ton of these slats and try to cut them all down and extrude them individually into something that looks like a circle. Or let's take our double line tool. Let's make 3.5-inch slats. And again, instead of drawing 50 of these, I can just open up my Move by Points tool, and we'll have 50 duplicates. There we go. So there's a bunch of slats. X to bring up my selection tool. Now I will extrude these. Control E. Just 1 inch. Okay. So now I've got all these slats. And again, because I extruded them together, they're essentially being treated as the same object. If I go to my top plan view, let's draw out my moon shape. There we go. And I'll extrude that, let's say 6 inches. So now what I need to do is make sure that these are occupying the same space. Let's look at it from the front view. I might grab this and just nudge it down a little bit so that it's completely over it. So there we go. If you hold Shift while you have something selected and then use your arrow key, you can just do little micro adjustments. So now we know that this disk is passing right through our slats, right? So if I select both of these and run Intersect Solids, it'll keep just the place where those intersect. There you go. Now I've got my slatted moon thing that I can hang on the back wall of the theater for whatever effect we want. But if I were to try to do this manually, drawing each slat out, that would just be entirely too tedious. So that's Intersect Solids. Okay, let's look now at a couple more of these tools down here. Let's go ahead and start with Fillet and Chamfer. Those are going to be very similar to what you have up here in the 2 dimensions with your chamfer and your fillet. What that essentially does, chamfer will put a straight edge on a corner and fillet will put a rounded edge on a corner. So let's grab any old tool and we'll draw 8 foot, 8 foot, and we'll extrude that 8 foot. So now we have a big old 8 foot by 8 foot by 8 foot cube. And we want to chamfer the edges. So we'll select Chamfer tool. Up here, we can dictate how deeply we want that chamfer to cut. A 1/2 inch on a piece this size it'll be hardly noticeable. So let's just, for demonstration's purpose, let's make this 1 foot. Now, this, once you've selected the edges, you just click that. Select that edge and that edge. And you can hold Shift to select multiple, and then just click it. And that chamfers those edges for you. Again, you can make it more subtle if you wanted. Just a little 2-inch chamfer. And then select an edge, 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 holding Shift. And there we go. So that's chamfer. Very similar operation is going to be fillet. And that'll just give you the rounded edge. So let's make this a 6-inch round over. And we'll select this edge, and this edge. Check mark. And there we have it. So that is fillet and chamfer. Going back to our 8-foot cube here, the next tool we want to take a look at is going to be Taper Face tool. So this one will allow you to basically make ramps or to add inclines to faces. So you're going to click a couple times. The first click is going to be the face that is unchanged, that will reference the next click. So select this face. The second click will tell you which face is actually adjusting in relation to that first face. So I click there, and then you can see it kind of ghosts the outline. But as I drag it up or down, it tracks in relation to that first face. So that's taper face. Again, let's say we want to taper this out. I'll keep this face. I'll select this second face, and I can swing it out like that. So it's a really nice way to get in and make quick, funky ramps and shapes like that. Another tool down here in our 3D modeling menu is going to be Shell Solid. What this allows you to do, again, it's not one I use a lot, but when you need it, it comes in super handy. What this allows you to do is basically create a shell out of an object. So one face of that shell will always be open. What you do is select the thickness that you want the object to be. Let's say 6 inches will be our wall thickness. Then if I select a face and click check, it will hollow everything out from that face. And it depends really on what face you want. So say I wanted a little bathtub or something, I would click that, and there's our weird, funky, modern aesthetic bathtub. But if you select, say, a different face, that gives us a completely different object. So that's Shell Solid. Like I said, don't use it a ton, but when you need it, it's very handy. Another tool that we have down here is going to be our 3D Polygon Tool. Let's say I've got a couple of objects here. The 3D Polygon Tool will essentially let you draw in 3 dimensions. So you can click on different faces on different planes and create sort of that tent-like structure. So that's the 3D Polygon Tool. I don't use that one a lot, but sometimes it's handy just to know that it exists. And now we get to the Deform tool. That's one of the fun ones. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. Top plan. Let's draw just a little 2 foot by 2 foot. And we'll extrude that up 10 foot. So we've got a little column here in the middle of our world. The Deform tool, again, that's on the 3D modeling toolkit, and it's this little twisty one. This actually has several different modes and can do a lot of different things. Let's start first with twist face mode. So with this, you select a face. I'll select the top face of this. First click selects the face and the sort of the pivot point for everything. Then you draw out. Second click sets a little handle. Then you can twist your handle, and you'll see as I'm twisting, The angle is over here in the box to the right, and you'll see the shape twisting. So that's a 360-degree twist. You don't have to twist necessarily out of the center either, so you can twist it from a point on a corner, and it twists out that way. And you don't have to twist from the top either. You can twist from this face, say. But that's the twist face on the Deform tool. The next mode under our Deform tool is going to be Taper Solid. So what we can do here, let's select that. We run a very similar operation. So I click the surface, I set my center point, and again I put a little handle on it. But instead of spinning, this time I can slide. And as I slide in, you'll notice it tapers in. As I slide past that point, it tapers out. So you can taper objects like that. And you'll notice too, it's scaling in both directions. That's because I have symmetric enabled. If I were to undo all that and do it without symmetric, it would only taper in two directions, such as that. A very similar operation is going to be bulge. So with that one selected, I will make it symmetrical, so it's bulging on all areas. You create a little handle, and then you can bulge it out. Or you can bring it in, like that. And you can run that on different faces as well. The last one you might want to play with under your Deform tool, the last mode is going to be this Bend Solid mode. So with this one, you can actually grab our column and just bend it. I usually like to keep symmetric mode turned off when I'm using this tool. But from here, you can select a face again. 1, 2, and then it just bends over. So you can warp things that way. As you're doing that, you can come in, hit Tab, and enter, say you wanted a straight 90 degrees. There you go. The last couple of shapes I want you to take a look at here are going to be just some of these quick shapes. So we have sphere, hemisphere, and cone. With these, they're really simple, just like drawing a circle. You go ahead and click, and then you tab out your radius. Let's say we want a 4-foot radius, and it'll draw a sphere for you. With the sphere, notice that the center of the sphere will be on the layer plane, so that will be going from 4 feet below the layer plane up to 4 feet. With the hemisphere, it'll draw right on the layer plane. And then we have cone as well. 2 clicks to set the radius, and then the third one to set your height. So those are the little quick shape ones. There's a couple other things in here, such as loft surface and some of these other ones, but until we get into like really high-level NURBS curves modeling and things like that, it's not going to do a ton for you. For starting out and just wanting to make shapes in space, that's about all you need. So that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching.